Happy Monday. Peace be with you. Those are the words that we hear from Jesus. We talked about forgiveness last Friday, and and how we're called to forgive. And forgiveness is one of those. It's almost a secret power that allows us to have equanimity, to have peace. And so Jesus comes in. It's shalom, he says, as he comes through the wall. And in the mind of the disciples, as I said last Friday, has a hard time understanding what just happened, and they need something concrete, right? Because our mind wants to glom onto something to help us understand what's going on in the world around us. And that's okay, right? That's how it was made. So Jesus holds out his hands and they touch. But one disciple wasn't there. You remember, it was Thomas. And so we find Thomas here, chapter 20 of the Gospel of John, verse 24. But Thomas, who was called the twin, one of the 12, was not with them when Jesus came. So the other disciples told him, "We have seen the Lord." And he said to them, "Unless I see the mark of the nails in his hands and put my finger in the mark of the nails and my hand in his side, I will not believe." A week later, his disciples were again in the house, and Thomas was with them. Although the doors were shut, Jesus came and stood among them. "Peace be with you." He says it again, right? Peace be with you is the greeting of our Lord back then and right now to you and I. And then Jesus says to Thomas, "Put your finger here and see my hands. Reach out your hand and put it in my side. Do not doubt, but believe." And Thomas answered him, "My Lord, my God." It was like a moment of confession, actually, where Thomas touches. He has concrete evidence that allows his mind to grasp the thing that he desired. And with that proof, he then comes to terms with the reality of the resurrection of Jesus. And so he stands as a witness to you and I that he touched and he saw, and that allowed him to understand. And he confessed then Jesus as God. And Jesus says to him, "You have believed because you have seen, you've touched and experienced. Blessed are those who have not seen, and yet they come to believe, they come to understand." And that's what Jesus is asking of us, right? That we can understand the nature of the resurrection and his presence in our midst. And so what that requires, of course, is it requires our expanding our mind. And what we need to do is something very simple in the expansion of our mind, is to allow for the possibility. That's all. To allow for the possibility that in this world, in this creation, with all the mysteries and all the things that we don't understand, we allow for the possibility that Jesus Christ was resurrected from the dead. That though that doesn't conform to the material way in which our mind allows us to see the world, we allow for the possibility that there is something that is bigger than our mind can imagine that happened and impacted a moment in time, but also impacts us now. So we open our mind. And that's all we have to do. Just have to allow for the possibility. Because the next part is this part. It is the heart, right? Because the heart, the deep part of us allows us to see, right? To experience the nature of God, the reality of the resurrection, and to do so in a way that we understand as true and real. So the mind only needs to give us the possibility, the eyes only need to give us the possibility. It is the heart opened that we learn to see with. And that's the point of Christianity writ large, right? To learn to see with the eyes of our heart, to hear with the ears of our heart. And so Jesus gives the Pentecost moment. We saw that back in verse 23, where he breathes out upon the disciples. He shifts their heart, right? He opens their heart. Thomas has a closed heart and a mind that is curious. And Jesus says, you just need to open this a bit, and you need to accept what I've done here to see what's happened in the world. So that's my invitation to you, to contemplate between now and tomorrow when I see you next. This idea that your mind will allow for the possibility of something that it can't quite grasp. That your mind will be open to the possibility that there are actually things that your mind can't understand. There are things that work in the world in a way that your mind doesn't understand, or at the very least does not yet know. So set that at the center of your prayer and contemplation until I see you next. But do know that I do pray for you, and I miss seeing you. I'm glad we're in this conversation, even as we come up against the very last chapter of the Gospel of John, chapter 21. Be at peace. I love you. Peace upon your souls.